Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video. It's been a little while, for me at least, for filming. Today we are going to dive into my April 2024 musings. What was I doing during the month of April? What was going on with me? And let me tell you, it was a lot. Again, I feel like this is the theme of I don't even know how long. Would I say it's at least 6 months? It might be even longer than 6 months. At least the past, maybe 8 months of bullshit. It's just like a continuing story, but a lot happened in April. I'm going to talk about it. Again, I'll start with the life things and then move on to the one book. Yes, it was only one this month. The one book I read during the month of April. And then I will show you my cards because there are quite a bit of cards I actually use and stuff I did. So let's get into it. In April was a very chaotic month, okay? It was. And, I'm not going to lie, my card for the month of April was actually the Eight of Wands. And so that kind of tracks. It was an Eight of Wands month. Not great. Actually, I think I even have it. Hang on. I think I even have it. Do I have it? I'm actually very behind on my tarot journal, but I think I did. Yes, there we go. It is. It's the Eight of Wands. And so that is my little spread. And the four main decks I used during that month. I had an Eight of Wands month, and that meant that I was very go, go, go. And let me tell you, I felt it. I felt every bit of it. Because the month started off with me. Luckily, I had spring break. It was like that first week of April. My work had spring break, so the students were out. I was out. But coincidentally, that was also the time when my fiance Daryl's dad came to visit us from India. And he stayed for it was about 2.5-ish weeks, almost 3 weeks. He stayed with us. So there was a lot that we did, of course, because he was visiting. We traveled to a lot of different places in the San Francisco Bay Area because that's where I'm from. Obviously not going to say exactly where, but but we went to places like San Francisco, Monterey, Napa County, wine country. I even got to visit my old university, which was Sonoma State University. And that was actually really fun to be able to do that. And of course, if I remember, I'm going to put some pictures around here of some of the stuff that we did or saw. There was a lot of photos in between. It's just like figuring out which ones I thought like best summed up our trip. But it was a lot. And you would think because we're doing a bunch of fun things, it would have been like all joyful. And sometimes it wasn't, just because like I noticed during this time I was getting very what's the word? I think it's because we had to entertain for so long, and being autistic, I need time to like separate, be by myself, not be so entrenched in like trying to entertain people and do that whole societal stick. So I got a little antsy and like stuff at times. Myself, I noticed I was just getting like kind of impatient, but it was still a really nice trip, or a really nice time. I guess it's just because it was like that switch up in routine, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and so with him visiting, we had to like inflate an air mattress in the middle of our living room space. So yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot at first in April. It was fun, but it was also chaotic. And man, I'm just surprised I got through the month. It was a lot. But then, unfortunately, the month starts like that. It's like, oh, we're having a good time. We're going around. We're going seeing in places and learning new things and all that jazz. But then the worst possible thing that could have happened at the end of April. I'm not going to get into it too much. I really am not. It's kind of personal things, but basically this whole shtick is that things did not go very well for Daryl work-wise, and because of that, we actually need to expedite our legal side of our marriage. So actually, by the time that you guys, actually probably by the time that this video even comes out, I will probably actually already legally be married. But that's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not going to get into why. It's very personal. But yeah, very unfortunate news like came at the very end of April. So by the end of that month, I was just done and ready to flip a table. Basically, it wasn't great. Like, definitely felt that rock bottom vibes, but I'm hoping for the best in May. I mean, at the time of me filming this, it is like very first week of May, but yeah. Anyways, that was April. Life events. I'm trying to think, did we really watch things in the month of April? Like, usually I know I talk about a little bit of if I watch things, and it's kind of a blur. I really don't know. I feel like when Daryl's dad was here, we were watching a lot of Is It Cake on Netflix. I don't know why. It was just what I felt like watching. And then Daryl's dad liked watching White Collar, I guess. I don't know. That's also on Netflix right now. So we were just watching like random shit like that. But other than that, yeah, I feel like April was just so chaotic. I didn't really like watch a lot. I started watching, I could talk about that, I guess, a little. I'm still not done with it, so maybe that'll be more of a May thing. But I started watching My Hero Academia, very famous anime manga, and I'm actually really enjoying it, so I started watching that one. And then for the first time for Daryl, he had never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, the actual one, not the live action. Well, he did watch that one first. But I'm starting to get him to watch the cartoon, the actual cartoon version, the original, and he is loving it. So that's also really great. So yeah, that was everything on that. Let's move on to the one book I actually read in the month of April. And you could say, wait, Livy, you usually read a lot of books. What happened in April? I would say life happened in April, and so I only read one book in April. And it was this one. This is The Lies of Loch Lamora. This is an older fantasy. This is Scott Lynch. And yeah, how do I explain this book? First off, I should start by saying I did give this book 4.5 stars here. This is a 4.5 star read. But there's kind of a lot to unpack here. So, and also you might think, oh, this book doesn't look like it's very much. Why would it have taken you the whole month? However, that is a lie, because this book is actually like 700 and something pages, as you can see here. Yeah, literally 719 pages. So this book is actually pretty big. A lot longer than my usual reads, even for fantasy. So I was just like, whoa, what in the world? Yeah, it took me all month. So what is this book about? Basically, The Lies of Loch Lamora is, now it's considered it's like considered a modern classic in the fantasy genre. This is one of those big books that people always tell you to read. And I had never read it, so I decided to. And this is a story about, well, basically the title character here, Loch Lamora. He grew up being a thief, and I guess I think it's mentioned, I can't remember because this book was so goddamn big, but I think it was mentioned that like he watched his mom die, but he didn't know his dad. So basically he was like an orphan from a very young age, and he had to make his way as a thief. He almost gets killed at one point in the, like, very early on, because he basically was pulling some heists and things, not like heist, but he was like scamming some people that he probably shouldn't have scammed, and it got him in trouble with the thief lord that was like in charge of him for a little bit. So he gets sent away to this other thief, and he becomes what they call a gentleman bastard. So he becomes one of them, and there's other thieves in arms that become like his best friends and his family. And so this book, I had to like slow down for a second. This book has like basically it jumps around a lot. It has like two parts. It's like the parts that show you his past and then parts that show you his present. So in his past, it was all that like lead up is like he had to become a master thief basically. And then in the present, he's trying to scam this noble family. But by doing that, a bunch of other stuff happens and kind of blows up in his face. And so it's this big thing. And man, I really felt like I lived in this world because it was the only book I read. So like I said, I overall liked The Lies of Locke Lamora. I did give it a 4.5. I do give it like a 4.5 stars for it. There is a reason though that it can't be a 5-star read for me. But first let's talk about the good, right? So this is a book, definitely intriguing, different plot. Basically the whole setup of this world kind of, it's supposed to be inspired by like Italy, like how it had like different dawns and like it was separated into parts and all that stuff. So it's kind of inspired by Italy. The world in this book felt very fleshed out, and the characters that do get depth do have a lot of depth to them, and they suffer a lot and they feel more developed. So for that reason, I did like this book. The reason why I couldn't fully, I couldn't like rave about it completely and be like, yeah, this is a 5-star read for me, is because I'm going to be 100% honest. Women in this book are not treated very well. Okay? They're not treated very well, much at all. They're either not present in this book, but are mentioned very briefly that they, I guess, were a thing at some point. Or they're kind of like killed off very quickly. There's quite a few women who either like suffer or are killed off, they're fridged. And so that was kind of annoying. And then the other thing with this book is that it being longer than I expected it to be, like literally being 700 and something pages, okay, made it so that after a while, I enjoyed it, but it was dragging on for me. And so I kind of wanted to have read something that, I don't know, would have gone a little quicker. Now, with that said, and I have the last dregs of my coffee. With that said, am I going to continue reading this series? Yes. There are other books. I heard that one of the characters by the way, one of the female characters who is mentioned in this book, she's only mentioned, by the way, this bitch is not even in this book the whole time. She's only mentioned very vaguely. She's supposed to make an appearance more towards, I think it's like the 3rd book in this series or something. I don't know. She actually shows up for once, so maybe he got better at writing female characters. I don't know. This book originally, by the way, for those who are wondering, I think this book came out first in 2008. Oh no, even older than that, 2006. So that also kind of gives you a context as to why these characters, I feel like, why the women get the shaft. He probably wrote better since then and decided to actually include the main girl, I feel like, who's like not even mentioned very much. Like she's not even on page. She's just mentioned by like other people a lot, and like Locke particularly is obsessed with her. Like I guess he was in love with her, but she's not even mentioned or shown at all. It's so awkward and weird. So I guess she shows up later. I will eventually get to the rest of the books. I do have them, book 2 and 3, but I'm going to have to read a lot of other books in between because if it looks like every book is just as long as this one. So it's going to be a little bit of a pain. But yeah, this was The Lies of Locke Lamora. Interesting classic, modern classic fantasy. did like it overall, just hope that the women get better treatment as the series goes on. But yeah, anyways, we're going to move on, guys, to decks. Decks. Okay, what did I use? You're going to see for the month of April, I actually did do a lot of tarot. Funny. A lot of it was kind of like here and there. I would randomly, like, I felt the need, I needed to do a reading, you know. So I did use my decks, and that was good. So let's get into it. I have 4 tarot decks that I use in the month of April. That's pretty typical for me. I like to limit it to 4, but I also have 1 oracle deck and 1, I mean, I guess it's technically an oracle, but then it's also like a prompt thing. And anyways, we'll start with that one, I guess. Yes, I use this one. This is my prompt thingy, which is technically also an oracle, but this is a Spreadcrafters Change expansion pack. I used this deck during the month of April. I did a couple of readings with it, particularly, let me see. Oh, actually they're right here. There you go. Particularly, I did a spread where I used both of these. This was, I wanted to reclaim and reform. So I like the things about me that I needed to reclaim. And then the things I needed to reform. And then I took like a couple of, like this has like 2 kind of questions or things I could have put. So I put 2 cards here and then there was 2 here and I mirrored them. I did a reading with these. I also did a reading, if I can find it. Don't know if it'll, oh, here we go. Rage. I also did a rage reading. I was feeling a lot of rage and dark things. A lot of bullshit was going on, especially like, again, with my emotions, trying to figure myself out. So I also did a rage reading. And so I did use these during the month of April. And for those who don't know the expansion packs, at least it's Spreadcrafters, this is Change. This is mainly like shadow work based. It comes with these cool silver, kind of glistening, but still matte edges. I really like them. These are the backs of the Change one. And it was nice to actually use these. I did like these. And so each one, of course, as you can see, has like that keyword, and then it has like the, you know, like the little, either the little prompts or almost like an oracle, right? Like acceptance, awareness, understanding, peer pressure, approval. I use more of like these, like the ones that actually say shadow work. These are like the prompt ones, so I pulled readings that way. But I also use these call to action ones to make a reading. So yeah, I'm figuring out ways to use the Spreadcrafters. You know, like again, the month before that, in March, I was using the Quest one. So in April, I decided to try out Spreadcrafters Change, and that actually worked for me. I needed it, and yeah, I enjoyed. Now, I don't know when I'm next going to use them. I guess whenever I feel the need to do a specific type of reading, I'll either go to this one or go to Quest, but I use this one in April, so that was good. Okay, and with that, maybe I should also talk about the actual Oracle deck I used in the month of April. And I'll be honest, I did use it a little bit, but I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I used this deck also last year, and I felt like I used it more last year, so I wasn't as compelled to use it this year, and therefore maybe I should have picked a different deck, but I didn't. In April, I once again used my Wild Child Oracle, which is funny. If you look at my other, basically last year, if you look at my other monthly musing for April, I used this deck also. Then I believe it was either April or May, but I used this deck. So I won't harp too long on this one, but I'll show you. The Wild Child Oracle also has a tarot now, as you know, and the creator, if I can, I don't know if it says, oh, there we go. The creator's name's on the bottom. This is the same creators as the Healing Waves Tarot, which I do not have. I only have this one. This is the Wild Child Oracle. There's also a tarot now, though, version of this. And I, of course, as you can see, have the original version of the Wild Child Oracle, where it's in this like egg oval shape and it has these matte dark edges. Sorry also for the lighting. For some reason it got really dark. I don't know why. This is the deck you know, again, you guys have seen this. I had it before. I used it last year in April. I felt compelled to use it again in April this year, but I guess I didn't pull it as much because I did use it last year. I don't know. It was kind of weird why I didn't feel drawn to this for some reason. I mean, I did pull, the thing I'm noticing about this deck, maybe, let me backtrack. The thing I'm noticing about this deck, the Wild Child Oracle, is that it does give me precisely the message I need when I need it. And the artwork, as you can see, it's beautiful watercolors, very beautiful. I had this card pulled, I think, for one of my readings this month. And this one also is a light card. It gives me precisely the message I need, and it's very beautifully like illustrated. Like I also had both of these, the Inner Garden and Cocoon Stage. They're very beautiful cards, as you can see. There's, you know, some diversity in this, mostly young, but there's like some skin tone diversity a little bit. It's a beautiful deck, and it gives you precisely the message I need. So it did help when I did pull it, but I don't know what it is about this deck. I don't feel myself always gravitated towards it. Like even this card I got, Gentleness, it's beautiful. But yeah, I just don't, there's times I want to use it, and then there's times I don't want to use it. Oh, I also got this card during the month, Ephemeral. It's still beautiful. It's just one of those, I guess I wasn't as excited about. Like I made my choice. I was like, this is a perfect deck for April. It's very springy. But, and it gave me the messages I needed. So it's not like it didn't work for me. I don't know. I feel like I was almost like wanting to use a different deck, and then I just didn't use that one. And it is what it is now. And you'll see what I have for May. I have a very different deck for May. I'm still trying to piece how I want to use that Oracle, but yeah. I used the Wild Child. It does its job. This guidebook is still very nice. It's written in, they're little poems. And of course, English is not their first language, so there are some grammatical errors with this, and translation, but otherwise it is great. But yeah, this is the Wild Child Oracle. And that's what I use for my Oracle. But let me show you now what tarot I was using during the month of April. I'm going to start with the first deck I used during the month, and that was the Paulina Tarot. Yes, I did. I think I might have used this deck also in April of last year. I don't remember. But this gives me, every time I look at this deck, it definitely gives me spring vibes. So I was very excited, like when I decided, yeah, I want to use this deck. These are the backs. I was very excited by the idea of, using it and stuff. But then it was funny because like once I did my week ahead readings that I usually do with this deck, I did not use it again the rest of the month. And I think it's just because like the month was so busy. I didn't know what I would have pulled with it anyways. But this is one of those decks that every time I look at it again, there is a part of me that gets like very excited about it. Like it's still very, it still feels very novel, if that makes sense. I don't use this deck often since even getting it, but I like this the best out of all of Paulina Faye, or also known as Paulina Cassidy decks. This one felt the most interesting to me. A lot of her decks are very bubbly, happy-go-lucky now, and this deck was her first, and if I felt more the complexity and the colors and the drawing, and so I like that better. But I know other people have said, oh, this deck is too busy, but I don't know. I just really like this one still. I feel like I'm gonna need a time to maybe like study this deck more, like use it exclusively for a while, because every time I do use it, it is interesting to me. I I don't know. I guess it's because I have so many other decks. I don't always think to go back to it, but it did its job in, oh, my card in the month. There you go. It did its job in April. Oh, and this High Priestess is still so cool. It did its job. I just didn't use it beyond like one reading with it. So that was a little unfortunate, but Paulina Tarot, it's still a good one to me. Still dig it. Still wanting to use it again this time of year. Again, gives me like mostly spring vibes, but yeah. Okay, on to the next deck. What else did I use in the month of April? Interestingly enough, okay, so this deck. By the way, this beautiful little bag here, this is a Kelly Bear bag. Love it still. They're definitely April vibes, right, guys? Even the backs of this deck, very April vibes. This is a Carrot Tarts Tarot, okay? On the lead up to April, I was very excited about the idea of using this deck. I was very excited. I was like, yeah, I'm going to use it for a lot of readings. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then the funny thing happened was I used this deck, again, just kind of like the Paulina Tarot, I used this deck for 1 week ahead spread. And I guess it's because the week ahead it gave me was like kind of awful and rude. I didn't feel compelled to use this deck for the rest of the month. And that was kind of sad because this deck is so cool. I've waxed poetics about this deck before. I've done, a walkthrough of this deck. I've shown you, like, this deck is, like, really cool. It's very different, very cheeky. Colors are very vibrant and different. It's just a really... It is a really good deck. Like, especially the majors are just so interesting and different. Like, this Hierophant is everything. I've already talked about that. But for some reason, it gave me a reading where I was just like, okay, I guess I'm not as excited to reach for this deck again. I don't know why. It was just, we weren't gelling as much. Or maybe it was just because the month was so chaotic. And I was just feeling a lot of feelings that I just didn't, beyond the one reading I did with it, I didn't go back to it. But I still really like this deck. I still love and am obsessed with the colors. It was very, despite being a Pippish deck, it still is very well thought out, in my opinion. The Eight of Wands, once again, card of the month. So I do still recommend this one. I guess didn't vibe as much as I thought I would with it in April. And I feel like, again, part of that was just life happenings, everything going on. Didn't go back to it. So yeah, this is the Carrot Tarts Tarot. You can't, independent deck again. I feel like, Paulina was mass market. The others are, well, actually, no, there's a mix here. But this one you can get on Etsy. And I'll wrap this up. Okay. Next deck I used in the month of April happened to be... Oops, sorry. Stuff's like flying on the edge. Okay. I have a bag for this thing because this tarot... This is the Dreaming Way Tarot, okay? And for some reason... Compared to the Paulina Tarot, which is also a US Games deck, this tuck box works great. I can put the Paulina Tarot still in it. It slides in and out. I don't have problems here. But for some fucking reason, sorry, I'm going to get mad, but for some fucking reason, the Dreaming Way Tarot's tuck box was this piece of shit that was so tight that every time I tried to get this deck out, it was like the biggest struggle in the world, that I literally had to put it in a different bag just because I couldn't get it out. And as you can see, every time I tried to put it back in, I damaged the little white book it came with. I was like, what the fuck? It kept doing that to me. So had to do a different bag. These are the backs. I've talked about this before. The backs of this deck, is very much the 90s, but in a way I don't like, actually. I'm not a fan of these backs. But the Dreaming Way Tarot itself, this is an old one. I do like it. I did one reading with this deck. This is one of those that I did only do one reading with it, but I contemplated doing more readings with it. So I was kind of drawn to the idea of using it. This was also my on-the-go deck. I traveled with this deck. I did my week ahead reading with this deck while I was traveling. So this is one I do like it. So it was nice to use, but again, it's just the month was so chaotic. I didn't feel the need to go back to this one. So yeah, I only used it once, but I do like this deck. It's very different. The fashion is very interesting. I think the only thing about this deck too is that, as you can see, all the people that are depicted are very pale. They're just like pale people. Could have had some more diversity for its time. But I think this one is also an older US Games deck. I don't know if it says on here. Let's see if it does. Yeah. Oh. Well, that's not that old then. 2012. Like, so it could have had a little more diversity by then, but didn't. But it is an older one. This has been around a while. Still a bit newer feeling to me because I did get a newer. But yeah, the Dreaming Way Tarot. Did use it in the month of April. Okay, and lastly, the last deck I used in the month of April, and I did use the most, okay, happened to be my Lillifer Tarot. Me and this deck were having a great time in the month of April. I don't know what it was about it. I actually used this deck the most. So this is its box. I have the gold edition, I should say. So as you can see, it has a lot of gold accents. This box kind of falls out easy too. This is the inside the box. More the outside, you know. Very colorful deck. And this is the bottom. Little white book it comes with. And these are the cards. Very rainbowy, as you can see. Oop, let me go. There we go. The sunlight finally hits it. This is why it's called the gold edition. It's got all these cool accents. I love the size of this deck. My hands are small and I can grip it like this. The whole deck, I can literally grip it like this. Very good. So it is a little smaller than average tarot size. I just love the Lillifer Tarot. Me and this deck were having a good time. And I think part of it is because this deck is so colorful. So it's still at white. So it still felt springy to me. But this deck also has a lot of emotions attached to it. Like, I feel like this is a deck that lets you feel whatever the hell you want to feel. Whether that's like body positive at the time, or if you're having sadness or you're feeling rage. There's something about the way that this deck is formatted that it just kind of lets you feel whatever you want to feel. And so I use this deck not only for week ahead reading, but I actually, every time I use this deck, I did actually pair it with this. So I would pull a Spread Crafters, then I would use this deck to do the cards. And I love the Lillifer Tarot. Like, look at this death. This is so metal, but I love it. Like, look at, you could literally see like the little face inside the Grim Reaper. It is so good. So yeah, this deck just let me feel what I wanted to feel. I was having a lot of emotions. There were things I needed to pull, and I did. And I just love this deck. It is so fun. If you have this deck, then you probably know, right? It's a good one. It works for me. I feel like this is, so a lot of people like the, what's her name? There we go. Marion Costentin. They really like her, what is it? The Reclaim Oracle. Also, I think for the same reason, like this deck really lets you just feel your emotions. I would have loved to have the Reclaim Oracle if it wasn't just in black and pink. This is like mine, basically, because it's colors. It's what I love. It's watercolor. It's beautiful. So this deck works for me doing that. I don't know what else I would pair it with though, but yeah, this one's just a good one. I like it. I was very happy to use this in April. I was almost half tempted to use it again in May, but I have different decks for May. There's a lot of decks I actually want to use in May, but we're not gonna we're not gonna get into that right now. We're just talking about April today, but I do recommend a Lilith for Tarot. Now that I've had like a chance to use it more, I definitely like using this deck for feeling my emotions. I don't remember, did I put it in my All Up in My Feelings decks? Maybe I did. I don't remember. But I'm going to end this video here. And yeah, that was all the stuff I did in the month of April. And I am crossing my fingers, hoping that May will be a little better. But Daryl and I are not out of the woods yet about stuff that started happening at the end of April. So we'll see. But for now, thank you all for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!